And with a great new addition to our mini bike, we could throw this new billet rod from Go Power Sports in there. And the first thing we need to do is come down here and take these bolts off the frame.
It's going.
Next up, we'll plug the gas from the carb and take the throttle cable out. Now with this taken apart, we can slide that back in and finally take this motor all the way out. All right, next up, we're gonna get these side cover bolts off. So we've broken loose all of these bolts. I'm not gonna twist them by hand, but we are gonna get them done. But now we can continue. We can take this side cover off, wiggle it back and forth on both of these pieces here so we can walk it off. All right, we'll go ahead and flip this motor around. Now we'll have to take this head off so that we can get to that piston rod. All right, now with this valve cover taken off, we have access to these two bolts and these bottom two head bolts. Well, sadly, I couldn't video this, but I broke them loose with that breaker bar I had. All right, now that this head is finally taken off, we want to be sure we keep our push rods in the right orientation. So this is the way they came out in mine, with this side coming out of here and this side coming out of the head. We keep them on both sides. Likely with a new motor it won't matter, but on an old motor they'll be worn and you'll want to keep them there. All right, we're gonna flip the motor around again. We can come into this piston side. We're gonna orient this so we have enough room to fit a ratchet in there. And we're gonna take this 10mm bolt off. Take this first bolt out. Now we'll turn the crank a little bit so we can reach this side of the rod bolt and we'll get it broke loose. Now that we've got our two rod bolts out, we can take this and gently wiggle it until it comes off, just like that. Now with this cap taken off, we can turn the crank and we can get this piston to come out. All right, now with the piston at top dead center up here, I can take and push it out the rest of the way. All right, with a little push, we can get this piston ring to start coming out, and we can push it the rest of the way out and grab on it. All right, with the piston in our hand, we can now take a pick and spin this ring right on round. To this notch here, and we can get it taken and pulling out now. Just like that. Now with that pin out, we can take and shimmy this side down, and we can push it on out. Right, and just like that, we can now take our factory stock rod and replace it with our billet rod. Now we can align our rod with our piston the proper way, and we can put this pin right back through it. You don't want to forget your lock ring, otherwise you're going to have a catastrophic failure with this thing. Make sure it locks nice and snugly in there, and then we're going to rotate this to be on the opposite side. Now we'll take a little bit of oil and we'll coat this piston with it, and the same with this cylinder walls. Now with a ring compressor on it, we can now get this piston all the way in. Well, that was very hard to get that piston in there with all those rings. I very well don't recommend one of these, but if that's all you got, that's all you got. Well, I really do wish I bought the stroker model, because apparently on these new models, they have this cut away already. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that sure does look like it's cut away for it. So don't forget to put your bearings in before you line all this up so that you can put it together. All right, we'll go ahead and put this bottom cap on here. We got an issue. This oil sending unit's got to come out for this oil pickup on here to really get used. So let's tear that out. Alright, so we took this little O-ring, being very, very careful not to rip it so we can reuse it. And we've got a matching size bolt to go right through it with a washer to give a good seal so that this bolt doesn't leak. And with that seal on here, we can now plug this hole. You take our nut and screw it right back on. All right, now we're going to toss our cap on our piston rod. All right, now with a torque wrench, we can start tightening these. All right, and now with that nice new rod in there, we torqued it down to 170 inch-pounds. And just like that, we've got a new billet rod in there. We can put our head and our valve cover back on. We can now take our valve cover and put it back on. And the time has finally come after we've rebuilt this motor, and we've got a billet rod now in here for all the extra power we're going to throw to it. It's finally time to test it and see how it starts.